today's guest is an international best-selling author, podcaster, app designer, entrepreneur, and trainer who has spent the last 18 years traveling around the world sharing his passion. He has also shared the stage with and trained many of the top trainers and thought leaders in the world today. Welcome to the show, Robert. How are you doing?
Toby, I am feeling blessed to be here and excited to just have a conversation with you.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted that you are joining me on this episode of Mirror Talk. I'm so looking forward to learning a lot of things, clues from you today, and yeah, I'm just excited about that already. But before we jump into talking about your books and the awesome works that you've done and you are doing, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself, your journey from humble beginnings, and all the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I'm very blessed with is my wife and I, we actually met when we were 13. We actually started dating when we were 16, and we got married when we were 19. And we just celebrated our 32nd wedding anniversary. So if I'm correct, I think I've been married even longer than you've been alive.
Yeah, yes.
And
wow.
We have been blessed to have a journey that has included ups, included downs. It's gone all over the place. And I wouldn't have it any other way, I guess you could say, because, I've had such a great learning course from that and understanding what I was taught as a child, what I saw as a child wasn't necessarily the way things are supposed to be. And left to myself, I would be kind of still in a box thinker, follow all the rules, don't think outside the box. But because I have an amazing person in my life, which is my wife, Roxanne, she taught me to start thinking outside the box. And because of that, we were able to take some of the twists and turns life has thrown us and really come through them and elevate our life. Everything from, me thinking I'm going to work for companies all my life to becoming an entrepreneur out of necessity, because I couldn't find a job. I started delivering pizzas for Domino's Pizza. And from necessity of thinking we were going to lose our job when the store was being sold, we became managers. And from manager, we ended up becoming franchisees. Even though we knew how to run a store and we were qualified, we didn't know how to run a business, Toby. And there's a total difference between those two. And when we started being franchisees, we actually were able to buy 2 stores with no money of our own. And we started making pretty good money, but our mindset, our spending habits, how we were raised, we started spending more money than we were earning. And I don't know if you know anybody that's ever done that before, spending more money than they're earning. And it put us deep, deep, deep in debt. And when we were franchisees for 8 years, we were over $150,000 in debt. And we were stressed out beyond belief. We were going down quickly, didn't know what to do. And that's when we were introduced to personal development and working on us. And what's kind of cool is from a very powerful 3-day training that we went to in June of 2001, we started to understand why we spent money the way we did. More importantly, we took ownership that we were the ones that created our financial debt reality. And so from there, we were able to actually take responsibility to say, we choose to get out of it. And when we made that decision, we started to apply what we had learned. And we ended up going from being over $150,000 in debt to actually being retired completely financially free 9 months later at the age of 32.
Wow.
And that's that's kind of what our mindset went, wow, that worked.
Yeah.
And when we realized that, we said, if this much information gave us that result, what would more learning do? And we dove into learning from as many masters as we could. We started learning, because I'm a big believer, don't just learn one way. Don't just learn from one person. And so we started learning from everybody. And that's when I found my true passion was to teach, because I felt if I could even help one person do what my wife and I had done, go from being deep in debt to actually being financially free, it would make it all worthwhile. And so, yeah, for the last 18 plus years, that's what I've been blessed to do, is travel around the world. I've personally taught over 500,000 people on how to create financial freedom in their life. And I live every day living my passion.
Wow, that's great. That's very inspiring. That's very inspiring. So earlier you talked about, you and your wife made some mistakes that got you into debt. and you took ownership of that. That's very important. I really like that, because it's very difficult sometimes to take ownership of situations. So can
Yeah.
you share some of these problems that you went through?
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
sorry, what
one
were
of
the
the things that,
mistakes you made? Yeah, sorry.
no worries. One of the big ones is our spending habits.
Mm,
We wanted instant gratification. As we started getting some money and some success,
mm,
it was we wanted all the toys. We had, you know, one of our stores was on a lake community, so we had a lake, or we had a boat.
mm,
And what's interesting though is we had all these expenses of this boat, and the boat stayed parked in our driveway because the only season we could use the boat is when we were in the store the busiest the most, because it was boating season. And so we had this nice boat, but
yeah.
we weren't using it, but
Mm,
we had all the expenses. Another one was things like we were always working together, but we still had two cars
mm,
because, you know, we're successful. We should have two cars to show that we're successful.
yeah.
And yet we only needed one car ever because we're always together.
Mm,
And so we had all these things. The mind wants something and it wants it now.
yeah.
And so we were always buying. Oh, I like that. Okay, let's buy it. Can we afford it? That question never came up in our mind.
Mm,
It's just, oh, we want it, let's buy it. And
mm,
so we racked up a lot of debt. We racked up a lot of expenses.
mm,
And yeah, we were having a pretty good life, but we were getting stressed more and more and more because we were digging ourselves into a deep hole.
mm,
And it was just, we realized that, you know, the programming came from our parents. And my wife and I both are the youngest in our families, and both of our families, they just get by.
okay.
And so we learned from them that when you just get by, you can make it work. And
Mm,
so if times were tight, we could. But we also learned from them that when times are good and you get extra money, what
yes.
do? You spend it. You don't
Mm,
save it, you spend it.
mm,
So we took that part of our conditioning and our programming and
yes.
we took it to a whole new level, because now we can leverage because we could get loans, we have credit cards, we have all these things.
Yes.
And it was a kind of a vicious cycle we fell into.
Mm. And I'm so glad that you got out of it, and you got a mindset to create wealth for yourself and retire at a very early age of your life. That's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, it took us being willing to learn
Mm,
and willing to say, you know what, there's obviously something we don't know.
mm,
And if we don't, are we willing to learn? And that's why today, even though I'm blessed to travel around the world and train,
yes.
I am still an avid student.
Mm,
I learn in as many audiences as I can all the time, because the moment I think I know everything,
yeah.
I'm done, Toby. I'm done. If I think I know it all, I'm finished.
Yeah, yeah, yes, and that brings me to your book. You deal with finding clues from around you, around us, to teach people about success, about freedom. And as you said earlier, you're a student of life. You keep on learning from people around you, from every circumstances that come your way. So
Yeah.
I'll love us talk about your book. It's titled "Success Left a Clue." So what was the inspiration behind the book? I think I know that already, but can you tell me more about the inspiration behind the book? And can you share and explain the 6 life-changing habits to achieving your dreams while keeping it real, keeping it relevant, and keeping it repeatable?
Yeah, and so if you notice, my initials are RRR for
Yes,
Robert Raymond Riopel, and
yes,
that's why I love, as a way of remembering to keep my trainings very, very real. I use the 1R to mean that, yeah. When I do a training, I give the good, the bad, the ugly. I don't just try to make it sound all awesome. I'm
mm,
going to share the ups and downs. The second R, which is relevant. When I teach, I love to make sure that I'm teaching what works now.
mm,
If it worked 20 years ago, but it's not relevant right now, I won't teach it,
mm,
because I want people to be able to make changes in their life if they choose to, here and now. And then repeatable, anything I do teach, I want to make sure. I love systems.
mm,
I love systems. And the definition of a system is a repeatable process that works.
mm,
And so I love to make things repeatable. So once a person learns it and they get the results, they can do it again and again. And so the 6 steps of my book, I will tell you, I wrote the book, the inspiration was because it's what I needed in my life. And I realized that if it's something I was needing in my life, there's a really good chance other people
mm,
probably were going through the same kind of mindset and stress and struggle. So that's why I started writing the book. But I'll tell you, it did take me when I first decided I wanted to write a book, it took 15 years before I published the book.
15 years.
Yeah.
Why so long?
Because it started with a dream, and I didn't know what I wanted to write, but I knew I wanted to write a book. And I look back and I used to beat myself up that it took so long. But then I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. And a lot of people have heard that statement and they believe that statement, but they've never heard the full statement. See, the statement isn't just everything happens for a reason. The full statement is everything happened for a reason, and that reason is there to serve me. And so when you look at that, it puts you into curiosity. Yeah. And so when I finally finished the book, because in 2009, I had actually wrote it. We had the manuscript. We just didn't put it out. And when I finally made the commitment that it was time to, in the beginning of 2017, I pulled the manuscript back out and I ended up rewriting half the book because from 2009 to 2017, I had more impact, more change. My life, my viewpoint had changed. So when I ended up pulling the book out, I was like, yeah, I like that. But you know what? I want to say it this way now. And so I ended up rewriting it to what it is today. And the 6 steps, step number 1 is how I began, is to dream. And it's not just a dream, though. It's to dream big. You know, a good friend of mine, Mr. Les Brown, and I don't know if any of your listeners know who Les Brown is, but he is one of the top motivational speakers in the world. And I love what he says. He says, the problem isn't that we set our dreams too high and we miss them. The problem is we set them too low and we hit them. And the reason that's a problem is because that keeps us living a mediocre life. And I'm going to ask you the question here, Toby, is because you're still fairly young. Like you were just, I'm looking at you and I'm like, you're just a baby. But when you were younger, did you have a lot of dreams in your life?
Yes, I did. Yeah, yes.
And was pretty much anything possible for you?
Yes, I could dream of anything, like without limitations, like.
Exactly. And then what happens as we start growing up, society comes in to tell us what's realistic.
Yes.
Maybe you don't have the right education for this, or you weren't born into the right family for that. And all of a sudden we start getting all these messages coming from society that starts squashing our dreams. And so what I want people to do and understand right away is start dreaming big. Dream big. Don't worry about how it will happen. Don't worry if it's possible. Don't worry if you have the right knowledge or education, or if you're smart enough, you're tall enough, you're handsome enough, good looking enough, whatever. Don't worry about that. Just start dreaming big. And this is where I want people to start creating dream boards, vision boards, so that they can just take their dreams and put them down. That's the first step. Then the second step, because now that you've got dreams, I love to give people the practical steps on how to actually bring those dreams to reality.
Yeah.
And so the second step is you find a mentor or find someone to model. Because here's what I want people to understand. No matter what you want to accomplish, chances are someone's done it before you.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to figure it out on your own, find someone who's done it, find out how they did it, so you can avoid the mistakes they made, and you can really do the great things that got them to the accomplishment, and then follow that system. Because if you do, you're going to have success a lot easier. And some people, they'll go, but Robert, I can never get access to the mentors I want, or some of the mentors that have done what I want to do, maybe they've already passed away. Find out if they have a book. Find out if they have a training. Yeah. This is why I love reading and watching biographies, is because now you don't only get to see the accomplishment, but you get to see the journey along the way.
Yes.
Of how they got to where they are. Because I'm a big believer that some of our greatest lessons come from the mistakes and the stumbles and the failures. That's where some of the lessons come from.
That's true.
But on this step also, Toby, I'm going to put it into a new perspective for your listeners as well. As you're looking for a mentor or someone to model, also be asking yourself, who can I mentor? Who can I be a model for? Because I believe when we're in that space of giving, there's something called the giver's gain. as you're helping and giving to others, your life gets more fulfilled and more opportunities come your way. And some people will say, but Robert, I don't know anything. Who could I mentor? I guarantee you there's something in your life that even if you're beginning it, you're at a level where you can maybe help someone else get started. Yes. Things like even, hey, big brothers and big sisters. If you've gone through things in life and you think that value could be added to a younger person, become their mentor. Because it's not just about what can I take, it's what can I contribute at the same time. Does that make sense, Toby?
Yes, it makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
So this life is. I was just waiting for you to speak. This life is basically about us learning from people and also teaching other people to like give back what you get, for example.
Yeah, because there's a secret formula that I have for learning, and it comes in 3 steps. And the first step is you learn. Second step is you do. Because if you ever notice that when, like, and for me, this is absolutely true. I can read something, I can learn about it, but until I'm doing it, that's when I get a deeper understanding.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yes, I agree.
And then the third step, if you really want to take it to a whole new level and really anchor it in, is teach. Because now when you teach someone else, like, look, I learned something today before we started. You taught me how to get my GarageBand ready to record on this end. Yeah. No one's ever showed me that before. And I've used GarageBand. I didn't know I could do that for Zoom. And the fact that now I can capture the audio to make sure it's even better, that's awesome. And so I just learned, so I'm going to use it. And the fact that you taught it to me, that deepens your understanding as well.
Of course, yes.
And so when you do these 3 steps, learn, do, teach, as soon as you teach, go back to step number 1 and learn again, do, teach. And if you keep learn, do, teach, you'll be amazed at how much you can grow your life. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yes. So, and I also believe, like, whenever you teach, it also widens your perspective on what you've learned already or what you are doing. It helps you to broaden your horizon a little bit, and it helps you to sharpen your knowledge on things that you've learned or you are doing actually.
Yeah. Absolutely. You hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
You hit it right on the head. Excellent. Yes. And so that's step number 2. Step number 3 now, here's what I've witnessed from people around the world is you have people that can dream really, really big, and they set big dreams. And they even find mentors or someone to model, but they forget to do the 3rd step, which is one of the most important things, and that's take action. They forget to take action. And why? Because they think about it. And they think about it. And then they think about it some more. And they get caught up in that analysis paralysis because they overthink it and they forget to take action. And one of my favorite quotes I love, it says, 1 step in the right direction is worth 100 years of thinking about it. Right? Yes, and so when I travel around the world, I love meeting different cultures. And look, first time I started going to Germany. In Germany, people are thinkers and they think. And so when I can help them start taking action, I love to watch them break open and like, wow, because, very, very deep thinkers in Germany, as an example. Yes. So when you learn to take action, it doesn't have to be big steps. One little step, success comes out 1 step at a time. So take action. And then the 4th step is, this is one that a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people, they wonder why, well, and I'll ask you like this, Toby, have you ever found you've been having, things are going good and you're doing all right, and then all of a sudden it seems like you sabotage your own success? Has that ever happened in your life?
Yeah, of course, yes. Like from mistakes or from, oversight, for example. Yeah.
And one of the reasons we end up sabotaging ourselves is because most people don't do step number 4. And step number 4 is to celebrate your successes. Is to celebrate, take ownership. We will do something good, and other people go, that was awesome. And in our mind, we'll go, yeah, not really. we'll play it down, or it was no big deal, or and we don't celebrate it. And so now that inner child is not having a chance to play. And here's what's going to happen. If you don't let your inner child play, if you don't acknowledge your inner child and your greatness,
Yeah.
Now, let me be clear. When I talk about owning your greatness, I'm talking about confidence of owning your greatness, how amazing you are, not arrogance.
Mm.
You know, there's some very arrogant people out there, but I want you to own how amazing you are confidently, and just, you know, that, yeah, I am good.
Mm.
And I'm okay with acknowledging that. So with celebration, when you celebrate your successes, I'm not saying you have to go out and be like, I'm amazing. You know, what I'm saying is it could be
Yeah.
something like, you know, giving yourself a high five, giving yourself a
Mm.
pat on the back, yeah, a fist bump, like, you know, just like, yes, owning it. Because if you're a believer in law of attraction,
Mm.
there's a saying that says, what you focus on expands.
Mm.
And so if you focus on just failures in your life, you're actually going to attract more failures.
Yeah.
If you focus on being hard on yourself, you're going to be harder on yourself.
Mm.
So if you take the time and actually say, like for me, every day when I wake up, I write in my success and gratitude journal.
Mm.
I write down 5 successes from the day before,
Mm.
and then it morphed. It came over the years. It's become, I can write down either a success or something I'm grateful for, or
Yeah.
someone I'm grateful for in my life.
Mm.
And because that's how I start my day, I start the day with a smile on my face, even if I'm tired, even if I haven't slept well, even if I'm sore, even if I really don't want to get up.
Yeah.
I write down those successes and gratitudes, and then all of a sudden I can go, today's going to be a good day.
Mm.
And it starts me off.
Yeah.
And what happens is really noticing and celebrating those successes, you actually draw more successes to your life.
Mm. Mm.
You attract more great things to your life. So that's step number 4.
Yeah.
And step number 4 actually leads into step number 5, which is believe in yourself.
Mm.
And look, this is why I'm a big believer in having coaches. Sometimes you want to surround yourself with people that believe in you more than you believe yourself.
Mm.
And when I mentor, because I've been blessed to train thousands of trainers around the world.
Mm.
And one of the things I say when they become a mentoring student of mine is I said, look, in the beginning, your confidence may not be the highest.
Mm.
So let me be your cheering squad. Allow me to believe in you until you believe in yourself.
Mm.
Because I see things in you don't see. I see greatness. Like even just having our conversation, and I'm talking to you, Toby, I'm watching your focus.
Mm.
I'm watching your amazing calm demeanor, how I'm getting that you're catching everything. And I see such a powerful presence in you that I don't even think you own in yourself, but I see it.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like when even that how bright your smile is, when you smile, it lights up a room.
Mm.
And so this is why I'm a big believer in surrounding yourself with people who do believe in you and will look, the greatest athletes in the world. I can't remember the boxer, but I remember watching a documentary the one time, and this one boxer was a world champion, and it might have been Floyd Mayweather. I think I want to say
Yeah.
it might have been him. One of the people in his entourage, the sole job that they had every day was to constantly be walking behind him, whatever he's doing, or running with him, and saying only one thing: "You're the
What's that?
champ. You're the
Ah.
champ. You're
Yeah.
the champ. No one's better than you. You're the champ." Up to 10,000 times a day, he would
Mm.
be saying in his ear, "You're the champ."
Mm.
Because I don't care who you are, we all go through self-doubt.
True.
I don't care how successful you are. I don't care how much people try to hide it. Everybody goes through self-doubt. So believing in yourself comes with practice.
Mm.
And again, not with arrogance, but with confidence. Not sitting there going, it's just like, having that belief that, I am. And here's why this is important, because if you have belief in yourself, you step into step number 6,
Mm.
which is simply repeat the first 5 steps.
It's that simple.
It is.
Yeah.
And look, don't let the simplicity fool you.
Mm.
When people see a system that's, and we could go down a whole rabbit hole of why people see a system and they try to make it more difficult than it is, why they try to reinvent it. But if you think about this, when you dream big and then you find a mentor or someone to model, and then you take action and you celebrate that success, it will elevate your belief in yourself, which will allow you to set greater dreams find greater mentors to model from,
Yeah.
take greater actions, have greater celebrations, which elevates your belief in yourself again even more. And it becomes a beautiful cycle that you'll go through. Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yes, it makes
And,
sense.
as an example of that, in 2001, when I was sitting in the audience for the first time in a seminar as a student, if someone would have come up to me and said, Robert, just so you know, over the next 20 years, you're going to create financial freedom. You're going to start teaching people all over the world. You're going to impact over 500,000 lives, and you're going to have an amazing life. If someone would have come up to me, Toby, and said that at that moment, I would have told them they were insane because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because I've been following these steps, I've been blessed to share the stage and train with and mentor from and mentor some of the greatest thought leaders on the planet.
Mm.
And and because I keep growing me, and then the biggest thing is I realized every person on this planet is just the same as me. Now, some of them have more hair than me. For your audience, I am aerodynamic, just so they know. So I'm not talking about hairstyles.
Yeah.
But no one's any better, no one's any worse.
Mm.
And one of the things I do when I'm doing training to kind of elevate that point or make that point with my audience is within the first 10 minutes of being on stage, I'll come down off the stage into the audience and I'll find someone who I can tell is very tall. I'll ask them if they can assist me. I have them stand up. They stand beside me. I look at the camera so everybody can see us on the jumbo screen. And I'll say to the audience, I say, I want you to notice something. I am short. Now, when I say that, that's the response I get. People chuckle.
Yeah.
I thank the person, let them sit down. And I say, now, why do I want to point that out to you? Simple. Just because I'm the one up on the stage doesn't mean I'm any better than you. Doesn't mean I'm any greater or any different. I still have ups and downs and good days and bad days. Now, is it possible I know something that you may not know? Absolutely. But isn't it also possible you know something I don't know?
It's possible. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And see, that's the point I want people to understand. And I love the concept when you talk about mirror talk. Because when you have that conversation with yourself in the mirror, what a great way to start a day.
Yes.
Just
yes.
like, you know what? I am me and that's all I can be and that's enough.
Yes.
I'm
Exactly.
ready for a great day.
Yes.
And when you do that and you elevate just your self-esteem little by little, how amazing. Like, this is why I will tell everybody to listen to your podcast, is because what an amazing message that you bring across to people to allow them to appreciate themselves, because especially in this time, the depression levels are up, suicide levels are up, because people just aren't, having good conversations with themselves.
You're right. Yes.
They're beating themselves up relentlessly.
Yes.
And if there's anything we can do to help people, own their amazingness, even a little bit more, what better is there than that, right?
Exactly. And that's why I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that you always write in your success journal every morning, like, to reflect on what you want to achieve in life. And it makes you happy. It makes you smile. And that also makes me also remember sometimes when I'm worried or, just going through my daily activities, I look at myself in the mirror and just wink at myself like, you're good, you're fine, you're all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as a friend of mine says, some people might go, oh, well, that's pretty self-centered. And his response is, and I agree, so it's my response is, no, that's someone being centered in themselves.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. And, one of the things I love to tell my students, and I'd love your listeners to do the same thing, in my opinion, in this interesting time on our planet, calling it social distancing was probably the worst thing they could have done. Yeah. No, physical distancing to be safe, absolutely. But now more than ever, we have to be more social, because how many people are locked up in their rooms and not being able to connect with people, and they're going spiraling down because their self-talk, even if it was great, even if they're having good mirror talks, eventually starts going in a negative direction.
Yes.
And so I encourage people to do a practice I do as well, is I will just at random, I'll reach out to 3 people I know in my life each day, and I'll ask them one simple question, 3 words. How are you?
Yeah.
And then I listen and we open up a conversation and it goes wherever it needs to go
Yeah.
because I'm truly interested in how they're doing. And it's amazing how many times I hear a person say, I needed that today. How did you know to just reach out? And I'm like, it's what I love to do. And something told me to call you or to reach out to you.
Yes.
And it's a simple little practice like that can elevate other people to help them along. But what it does for self-healing at the same time, pretty cool.
It's awesome. Yes, yes. I'd love to dive back to, when we were talking about believing in yourself or celebrating yourself, you made mention of, there's a difference between being arrogant and being confident.
Yeah.
So can you explain that difference? Because sometimes there's a very blurry line between being arrogant and being confident.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed, and this is, I want people to understand, this is just my perspective. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. It's just what I believe is arrogant people are people that are trying to overcompensate for not believing in themselves. And they're trying to fake it till they make it type thing. And so because they have such a deep hurting inside of lack of self-love, they become very arrogant. It becomes a defense mechanism. Now, and that's just my belief. There are some people who are just naturally arrogant. That's who they are.
Yeah.
And I have no judgment of that because that's them.
Yeah.
I have I'm busy enough just worrying about taking care of me. And when I believe in myself, oh my goodness, I don't have time to be worrying about trying to fix up someone else because I don't like the way they are or whatever. But in all the connections I've had, I've come to notice that people that are really arrogant or over arrogant tend to be hiding something or trying to battle their own demons.
Okay. But how do you help someone believe in his or herself? Like it's from the second, I think from the third action point. Someone will find it very difficult to believe in his or herself, and you try to believe in the person, encourage the person, motivate the person, but it's still very difficult for the person to actually believe in his or herself. How would that person break through from that unbelief?
Yeah, well, one, I don't have attachment to whether I can help them or not, because the moment I have attachment to it, I'm now putting my beliefs onto them.
Yes.
And that just may have them put up resistance. So if I'm having a conversation with someone that's not believing in themselves, I'll just ask. I said, well, what is something that you've accomplished? What is it that you love? And usually when you can get someone talking about something they enjoy or they love, all of a sudden you can find a pathway into, have conversations about why do you love that and how does it make you feel? And so how can you tap into that when you're feeling low? And I'll give an example. Maybe younger people, they like their video games. And you're like, okay, you love video games. Great. What's your favorite one? Well, maybe it's this game. And how do you feel when you're playing it? Well, I get lost in it. So why don't you play it? Well, I don't play it a lot because people say it's bad to play video games all the time.
Yeah.
And, that I'm just wasting my life. And then that's where you start to identify the outer programming and sources that have been telling them why it's not good. And as humans, we tend to focus more on what's not right than what's right.
Yes.
I love to help people find their passion, Toby, and then show them how to make money doing what they love. Because too many people, in my experience, are doing what they feel they have to do to make money, and they put their passion aside. And that's where low self-esteem comes from.
Yeah.
And so if I can help a person say, hey, let's get creative. Let's tap into what you're truly passionate about. Learn how to make money doing it so that even to start part-time, and now that's the difference between waking up in the morning and going, I don't want to go to work today, to waking up in the morning and going, today's going to be another amazing day.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I love, and so I hear a lot of times people go, but I could never do what I love and make money. Well, maybe with the knowledge you have, you don't believe you can. But now, and this, I'm a big believer in masterminds, because now when you bring other minds together to solve a problem, you come at it from different perspectives. And so it's like, well, would you be open to just seeing what possibilities, And let's kind of dive into this, Toby, if you're willing to have some fun.
Of course, yes.
Okay. What is something that you absolutely love? What are you passionate about?
So for example, what I'm doing right now, I'm very passionate about it. Like I enjoy having conversation, organizing conversations with people.
Yeah. And when you do that, how does it make you feel?
Very happy, like very
Yeah.
delighted. I'm very, yeah, elated. Yeah.
And do you think you're making an impact on other people's lives?
I believe so. Yes. Yes.
And I agree. And what's really cool about what you do is you don't even have any idea of whose lives you may be impacting.
No.
And the better part of that is you don't even have to know.
Mm,
But what I am going to tell you is you're going to find where in everyday conversations and maybe by message on your podcast and stuff, you're going to have people start to say, hey, Toby, when you said this, here's how it changed my life.
okay.
And that's the cool thing. Now, the question is, are you monetizing this
Mm.
so that you can make an income from it so you can do it as much as you want to do it?
That's a very wonderful question because I believe gradually I want to start monetizing actually, like, making an income from it. But my focus at the earlier stage was just to make an impact, just,
Absolutely.
do what I love
And
to
and
do.
and that's the first step. And
Mm.
so now, because how many episodes have you done?
Like 74 episodes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So now take one step towards monetizing.
Mm.
Because here's the way I look at it. Because of the value you give,
Mm.
I would hate to see you have to stop doing this because all of a sudden you have to do something more to make money,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
So why not have this make money so that you can do this as much as you want because it
Mhm.
does bring you the joy.
Yes, that's true.
And it's just, learn one thing to start, how can I monetize? And then put that into practice.
Mm.
And then remember, learn, do, teach.
Yes.
Learn, do,
Do
teach.
teach. Yeah.
You've done 74 episodes now. And I
Yes.
love your setup. I love how even no one in all the interviews I've done, no
Mm.
one's said, hey, do you have GarageBand? Let's get that activated on your side.
Yeah.
So you already have a niche to teach podcasters how to get started in a way that can keep them from losing their audio or
True.
not having the best audio.
Mm.
And so there's simple little adjustments that you can make now that could actually monetize. And I guarantee you there's people waiting for you to start saying, hey, I'm ready to share what I've learned from this journey.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect at it yet, but here's
Yes.
what I've learned so far.
Yes.
And the people that are already great, they're going to go, yeah, I don't need your services. But how many people who want to get started but have a fear, you can actually help them get started,
I
right?
do. Yes,
So
that's
there's a
true.
lot of different things you could do.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
how you then spread your gift even more.
Mm. Yes. Yes. You're right. That's absolutely correct. I'm going to take that advice and work with it. And yes. Yes.
Excellent.
Thank
Excellent.
thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Yes. So I also love to switch to your podcast because you also have a podcast.
Yes.
And in this podcast, you reveal like clues to success around us and how we could apply them to our own personal lives. So that's also a very, very wonderful platform for me myself to learn about, clues that I can find around myself to, become much more successful. So can you tell me about this podcast of yours and also some of the clues that I can find around myself? Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I have not recorded an episode of the podcast for over 2 years.
Oh,
And out of the 104 episodes,
mm-hmm.
I only did, I think, 3 or 4 actual interviews. The rest were I'd be traveling around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And as one of the things I learned is, and it's one of my clues that I give people, and the clue is simply write it down. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Toby, but a thought comes to your head and you're like, oh, I got to remember that. And then all of a sudden, 10 seconds later, it's like, what was that again? And you can't for the life of you remember what it was. Have
Exactly.
you ever had that happen?
Yes, several times. Yeah, yeah.
So that's why I love my phone, because if something comes up, I automatically either voice record a little note to myself or I write it in the note section. And then I can let it go. I'm not trying to remember and that. And so when I was doing my podcast, as I'm traveling around the world, I might land in Germany, or I might land in Bangkok, or I might land in Thailand, or in any other parts of the world. And when I'm in my hotel room, all of a sudden I'd look at my notes. There's 3 or 4 things I wrote down for possible podcasts, and I would just turn on my computer, open up my GarageBand, and say, "Hey, everybody, it's Robert here. I'm in Germany right now, and I'm going to talk to you about this." And it would be up to 5-10 minutes, and that was it. That's what most of my episodes are.
Yeah.
And the main reason I did it, to give a clue, is record yourself is another clue.
Mm.
Not only write it down. See, what you may not realize, Toby, but in your 74 episodes that you've already recorded, you now have a wealth of knowledge that can be turned into ebooks, can be turned into an actual book, can be turned into lead captures. You've already created a wealth of knowledge just from doing what you do, because you can take this same information. And so like my podcast, which is called Success, Left a Clue. Hello, after my book.
Yes.
I keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm writing my new book right now, and I'm going to start having people come to my website so that when I go to launch the book, I can get it to being an international bestseller as well. And so what I've done is I just finally brought on a virtual assistant. And the first job I gave her is every episode that I did, I had it transcribed automatically.
Oh, that's good.
Why? Because some people like to listen, some people like to read, right? And so her first task is, I said, I want you to go through all 104 episodes, and I want you to categorize them and see what kind of categories. She goes, well, what categories would you like me to put them in? I said, no, I'm going to leave that up to you, because I want a different perspective from what I think, right? Yes. And so it took her about 4 days to go through and listen to all the podcasts and read them. And next thing you know, she came up with 6 categories, and she put the different podcasts in each of the categories. And from that, I've now already created 1 PDF, and I'm going to have 5 more created as revenue generating, lead captures, and so all of that. And so I did my podcast as a way of capturing, because I know when I'm in the moment and I'm truly present, that's when some of the best thoughts come up for me.
True.
And that's what happens when you get your guests going. Just by you having that conversation, like a coffee conversation, that's when some of the greatest insights will happen.
True.
So that's 2 clues right there. 1, write it down. 2, record everything you do. And another clue, one I learned in India: choose to be happy. See, people don't realize that happiness is a choice. And may I share that story with you, how I learned it?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
My first trip to India, and I love really especially when I go to a country for the first time, I want to learn everything. And so I was there and I did a very powerful training. And the day before I was flying home, I had some downtime. I wanted to go shopping and buy some stuff for my wife and stuff for my collection of all the different countries. And so my partner sent me with his personal assistant, said, she's going to take you around and she's going to show you where the different stores are. And they had their driver. And I love to get to know people. And so when I meet someone and I'm getting to know them, one of the questions I'll ask is, what do you do? So I knew she was working for my partner. And I said, so what is it you do for them? And she said, well, right now I'm in marketing and helping with all the promotions and stuff like that. And something caught me that she said, right now. And because then the second question I usually ask people is, do you enjoy it?
Yes.
And you will be amazed, Toby, how many people, when I ask them that second question, they say they don't enjoy doing what they're doing. And that leads to my third question is, then why do you do it? And the two most common responses I get are because I'm good at it or I make a lot of money at it. And let me just say, those are both the wrong reasons to do something. Because you're just going to live a miserable life or not as happy of life. So when she said, for right now, I said, well, do you enjoy it? She goes, yeah. And I said, why did you say for right now? And she said, well, because I'm getting married next year. And when I get married, I'll probably be more focused on my family. And me being a Westerner, I was clueless. I wasn't even realizing. I said, oh, how did you meet your husband or your fiance? And she said, I haven't met him yet.
Okay.
She says, I'll meet him for the first time at our engagement party.
Wow.
Because I hadn't even thought of arranged marriages. And so I'm feeling silly. And I said, well, I apologize. Oh, it's okay. I said, okay, I'm very curious. I said, because I don't know anything about arranged marriages, can I ask you some questions? And she said, sure. What would you like to know? And I said to her, I said, well, how does it, when you have an arranged marriage, so you'll meet them at your engagement party, then you'll meet them on your wedding day. Does it eventually turn into love? And she says, She goes, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I said, so how do you deal with that? I can only imagine the energy and nervousness and stress you must be going through before, because you've never met this person. And she said, well, I listened to something my mother told me. And I said, what's that? She says, my mother taught me that no matter what situation you're in, choose to be happy. Because even if it's not the greatest situation, if you're choosing to be happy, you're still living your life.
True.
And Toby, that blew me away. That blew me away when because I figured, I look at myself as being a naturally happy person, but I had never taken it to that level. And so that's one of the biggest clues I live by today, is because we always have choice.
Yes.
Someone may come up and go, oh, I have to do this. Okay, maybe you feel you had to do it, but you have the choice on whether you go in with a good energy or you go in with a negative energy. And the moment you bring back the power to you that you have the choice, that makes all the difference. And so, and it was something I realized way back, my mom had taught me this, is no matter what job you're doing, the moment you open the door to go into the work, you leave all your problems at the door and you be there focused and you do your job at 100%.
Yeah.
And, so that great reminder she gave me, wow. And it impacted me so much, I actually put it in my book. It's actually one of the stories in my book because that made that big of an impact. And when I gave her a copy of the book and she read that she was in it, she's like, why would you put me in there? I said, because you taught me a lesson. And she goes, I never thought I could teach you. And I said, right, because you're not owning how amazing you are. And she's just like, she's like, wow. And so, those are some of the clues. Those are some of the clues for you.
That's so sweet. I mean, I just learned from that too right now that no matter how unfavorable the condition is, for example, no matter how difficult the situation might be, it's an intentional choice to be happy. You have to be very intentional about it to keep your happiness intact or in place, no matter what happens to you.
Yep. And that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Wow.
What I would love to do for your listeners is I would like every one of your listeners to actually get the ebook copy of Success Left a Clue as our gift to them for you having me on your podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes. So how can we access this? On your website, I guess, or?
Well, no, what we'll do is if they go to robertriopel.com, and so just my name, so ROBERTRIOPEL.com, they'll be able to download the ebook, but it comes with a condition, I will say.
What's the condition?
Because I've told you what step number 3 is taking action.
True.
I didn't just write the book as a book to be read and then put up on the shelf as shelf help. I wrote the book as a workbook. So every time I teach a step or throughout the book, I'll give an action step. And I'll actually say in the book, do not read any further until you've done this action. And then the very next chapter, I say, if you've not completed the action, the last action, stop reading now, go back and do the action, then read.
Yeah.
Because I know that that's the big difference between success and not, is people taking the action. So the reason I want people to have the ebook is so that they can actually do the actions. They can start creating the life they truly, truly want, and they will be blown away. So that's the condition.
Oh, that's a very wonderful condition. I'm going to place the link to your website and to the PDF in the show notes for this episode. So I encourage everyone to download the PDF book and read it and take the action steps there. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
So far from your experience in life, what are like some currencies of life that you could share with us? Like, what are the currencies of life?
I have the 4 currencies that I'm writing about in my new book. And the first currency is the currency everybody knows about, which is money. And what people don't realize is that too much money is called affluenza. And when you have too much money, you do crazy things with it. There's lots of examples. I use the example of a prince somewhere in the United Arab Emirates who decided to spend $1 billion on buying an A380 airplane for himself. That's a 2-decker airplane. He then spent another $100 million renovating it into his party plane Okay, so 1.1 billion for a little party plane.
Yeah.
That's affluenza. Too little money is called poverty. And what I've discovered is that we all have a zone that when we're in our zone, and our zone might be different than someone else's, we know we're in our zone of money, what kind of money we have coming in, how much wealth we have, because that's when life really flows for us. We know we're like, I know I don't need millions and millions and millions. You know, I've created a very wealthy life, but I'm not driven to have to become a billionaire. And I have friends that they don't want to stop until they've hit a billionaire, and that's great for them. That's where their level is. But I know that when in my life, I like to have my time off. I like to be with family. And so when I know I'm getting into the affluenza stage, when I start making silly financial decisions and buying things I probably really don't need.
Yeah.
And so I have that upper level. And then the lower level of my zone is when I start to feel the financial stress, if maybe some of my investments haven't worked out as well or what have you. Everybody will have their own zone. And if you're aware about that currency, you'll notice that, oh, why am I feeling like ucky about all this money? Or why am I doing these stupid things? Why do I seem to blow it? Is because you're at that upper level and you're still trying to earn more. And when you learn to really just flow within that phase, that zone, your life just on currency and money, you'll just notice more comes your way effortlessly to allow you to have a life you truly want, if that makes sense. That's currency number one. Currency number two is a currency that we all have the exact same amount of. That's a currency of time. Too much time on your hands is called boredom. Too little time is stress. And it's amazing how, you know, people are really good at being busy, and they're like, I have no time to do anything I want to do. Well, people have become good at being busy, but not productive. And there's a big difference between busy and productive.
True.
So I do my calendar in a way where my wife and I, we put on our calendar our balance pieces first. Time together, time to ourselves, family, all the things that we know that allow us to have a healthy lifestyle. And then we put in what's called focus time next. So with writing my new book, instead I could spend 8 hours and sit down and go, I'm going to go write my book. And 8 hours has gone by. I'm like, oh, how much did I really accomplish? Because I got busy looking at email, social media. Oh, remembering to phone that person back. Can you relate to this?
Yes, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was busy, but I put in focus time. And usually an hour, the mind can only usually go around an hour before it gets distracted. So I'll put on my calendar, okay, say 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, book writing. And in that hour, that's all I focus on. I don't check emails. I shut the phone off. My wife knows that I'm in my office and I'm working on the book. And in that 1 hour of productive time, focus time, I can be as busy as what 8 hours would have done. I can be as productive. So that frees up a lot of time for me. So time is another currency. Third currency is the currency of fame. And now, especially look, with social media, everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame. And we've all seen many examples of how fame seems to ruin people's lives. So when it comes to the fame, it's how do you maintain balance in your life? And I love an interview with Jennifer Lopez I heard a number of years ago that really put it in perspective to me. They said, you know, the person doing the interview said, Jennifer, you're like a singer, dancer, and actress. You're a powerhouse. How do you, but you also have an amazing family life. How do you maintain that balance? And she said, well, she says, the way I look at it is when I'm on stage, when I'm doing a movie, when I'm singing, I'm J-Lo. But when I'm home, I'm just Jennifer Lopez. And that really hit me, Toby, because I'm traveling around the world and I have assistants that take care of everything for me. And it would be easy for my ego to really go rampant, especially when hundreds of students are coming up going, oh my goodness, you've changed my life. You're amazing. And it would be easy for my ego to just explode.
Yes.
But when I come home, so when I'm on stage, I'm Robert Raymond Riopel. When I'm at home, I'm just Robert or Rob. And a running little joke to keep me grounded that my wife and I have is I can come home from traveling around the world for a couple of weeks and I'll come home and my wife will say, honey, you're home. No more assistants here. Go take out the garbage. And I love it because when I'm home, this is my space to regenerate, to really, just, I'm the same person in both places because I can only be me.
Mm.
But here's my sacred space that I'm not a big star. I'm not a world-class trainer. I'm just me.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And it helps to
And then
keep you grounded, I guess. It
it
keeps.
does. It
Mm,
does.
mm, mm.
And look, I am short, or as I've learned to say, I'm not short. I'm just more grounded. So that's the third currency.
Yeah.
And the fourth currency is the one I put most of my focus on nowadays.
Mm.
It is the currency of experience. See, most people go through life in the future about where am I going? What do I need to do? How do I get there? Or in the past, oh my goodness, look what happened to me. Because of this has ruined my life. They forget to be present.
Yes.
And so everything I do now is about the experience.
Mm.
And so I love one of my friends who taught me this great lesson. He said, when it comes to experience, and he was talking to one of his coaching clients, he had to make a dream board because we're big on dream boards, vision boards. And he noticed that he had a Lamborghini on there. And so he was asking him, he said, why do you like Lamborghini? And this guy rattled off all the specs. He knew everything about Lamborghini, 0 to 60 in this much, the size of engines, which models, and what color he wanted. He knew it all. And my friend asked him a very simple question. He said, so that's the car you want? He goes, yes. He says, have you ever drove one or been a passenger in one?
Mm.
Well, no, not yet. And he says, so here's some homework for you. Between now and our call next week, I want you to go to a dealership or go and rent one. I want you to experience driving or riding in a Lamborghini to have the experience.
Mm.
And then tell me what you notice. And so the next week they get on their call, and first question, he said, so did you go to see a Lamborghini? He goes, yeah. He says, I rented one for the day. He said, and? He goes, I don't want a Lamborghini. He goes, why?
Why?
He says, I'm 6'3". Getting in and out of that Lamborghini was painful. But see, until he had experienced it, he thought it's what he wanted. So with the currency of experience, ask yourself, what am I experiencing in my day-to-day life? What are and I'll give you one that I did on one of my dream boards. I've flown around the world many times, but I've never been on a private jet. So I wanted to experience being on a private jet. So instead of me just going and paying to go on a private jet, I decided to make money going on a private jet. And I actually, last January, so a year and a half ago,
Yes.
I had 8 of my students join me in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We hopped on a private jet. We flew to the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
We masterminded all day long, had even full police escort through the city from the airport to the resort by 2 Rolls Royces, full police escort, experience. Like I was creating an experience. So all of a sudden when we got to the mastermind, the level and the depth of our masterminding was so much deeper because everybody was in an experience of like, I've never experienced this before. This is amazing. So our connection was deeper. And then we had breakfast, lunch, dinner on the beach, at the resort, getting to know each other, masterminding, creating multi-million-dollar businesses right there.
Yes.
Then we drove back. We're driven back to the plane, flew back to Florida. And as we're coming across the land, all of a sudden the Kennedy Space Center launches a rocket. And from the jet, we got to watch it go from launch to atmosphere.
Wow.
What an experience. Yes. And so because of that experience, I now have lifelong friends that we remember that experience, and the businesses we've created together, the people we've helped because of that experience. So that fourth currency is the one I'm passionate about now, is how can you turn things into an experience instead of just same old. So those are the four currencies.
Yes. And now I'd love to spend from your life experience, for example, the currency of your experiences, for example, if I may, sorry. So if I may spend a little bit from your life experience currency, can you share some tips on how to live a much more empowered life like you are living already?
Yeah, well, first of all, be you. I grew up as a people pleaser. I was a world-class people pleaser. And when I finally realized that, look, this is me. That's all I can be. And either you like me or you don't. And if you like me, that's awesome. If you don't, that's awesome. because there's over 8 billion people on the planet, Toby. I
Yes.
can't get everybody to like me.
No.
And it's so time trying. And when I was a people pleaser, I thought I had to. But the moment I just started being me, then I was blown away by the people attracted to me who like me for who I am, not who they wanted me to be.
Mhm.
And so that would be my first advice is have the courage to be yourself, whatever that looks like. And if people can't handle you or don't like you for who you are, then that's fine because they're just trying to change you for their beliefs and who they want you to be. And if the moment you start trying to change yourself for someone else is the moment you start losing your power
Yes.
because you're now believing that their thought of you is more important than what you think of you.
Yes. And you'll be able to live the life of your dreams also. Like, yeah. You'll be
Yeah,
able to, you'll be able to take the six
it
steps.
takes courage. It
Mm-hmm.
takes courage. There's many people that have told us you can't do this or live that, and we've like, well, maybe not, but we're going to give it a try. We're going to
Yes.
go for it.
Yes.
And it's amazing that a lot of the naysayers, and
Mm.
here's what I want people to understand. There are people that in life that I call dream stealers.
Mm.
And they end up tending to be some of the people closest to us,
Mm.
our best friends, our family members.
Mm.
And a couple things I want people to understand is they're not necessarily trying to steal your dreams to be malicious, to be mean.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, they're doing it to protect you because they don't want you to get hurt. And this is where you every day you have a choice. Why am I going in this direction, and how does it feel for me? And if it feels like it's the right direction, then you take one more step. I'm not saying it won't explode and it won't work, but this is your journey.
Mm.
And see, if we try to just have a great life and never have the problems show up in our life, that's where some of our greatest lessons come from, is what didn't work.
Mm.
Look, I'll give you an example. In 2008, I had to take a year off training because I was burnt out. I was over living my passion.
Mm.
I was at home on average only 2 days a month because I was training so much all over the world.
Mm.
And that 1 year turned into 3.5 years because I had also not been taking care of my body. And I went through 2 back surgeries during that time
Mm.
because I overlived my life. And one of my biggest lessons was I went from overliving my passion, which was not good. I got burnt out. I didn't take care of myself. To then I went to not living it at all.
Mm.
And not living your passion is just as bad. I started falling into some of my old negative, non-supportive habits.
Mm.
And it was when I came out of retirement, I said, and there's a whole kind of story of why I finally made the decision to come out of retirement, because I got comfortable in my, I don't have to work for money. I don't, but all of a sudden these negative bad habits, I started putting weight back on. My life was going downhill.
Mm.
And when I decided that I had to train, not for the money, but it's my gift. And if I don't live my gift will be taken away.
Yeah.
And the moment I decided I had to train, I went, well, over training, not good. Not training at all, not good. Where can I have a little bit of balance? And so I made the commitment that I would only do 20 trainings a year, no matter where in the world I get asked to train. That way, even with all the travel, I still get 6 months a year to be at home and take that time off, because I like my time off, Toby. I love my time off.
Yes.
So as you go on your journey, you will learn what works for you and you make adjustments. If it goes wrong, don't beat yourself up. Just say, okay, that didn't work. And that's why there's 3 questions I always ask, whether it's myself doing something, when I'm with teams, we've done something. There's 3 questions that we're always asking. What worked? And we'll make some points. What did not work? We'll make some points, because that's where some of the greatest lessons come from. What didn't work? And then the 3rd question is, what will we do different? So when you do that, then if something doesn't work and you go, okay, it didn't work, what do we do different? So you make some adjustments and you go again.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really great. I mean, I'm also going to take note of this and also use it for my daily life, for every part of my life, actually, from business and everything, to ensure that I take note of what works, what doesn't work, and change what does not work, and change my action steps to ensure that I could improve or correct my mistakes. Yes, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And just own that this is your journey. It's no one else's.
Mm.
People, a great way to learn is find a mentor so you can avoid some of the mistakes and model what they do, but it's still your journey.
Yes, that's true. That's correct. That's one of my take home from this already. This is be yourself. It's your own journey, and live the life of your dreams. That's awesome. I'm so
You
grateful
got it.
for everything I've been to learn from you. I'm so happy, and I would just love you to tell us the best way to get in contact with you, to work with you, maybe for some mastermind courses or so wonderful
Yeah.
things. And for your new book that's coming out very soon, how can we connect with you and stay in contact? In contact.
Well, first thing is definitely if you want to be connected with me, go to robertriopel.com and get my ebook, because then you will automatically get notification when I'm ready to launch my new book. I, periodically, I will send out an email to tell you about trainings I'm doing, because I'm doing live trainings all the time on Zoom, and a lot of students in Europe actually. So I end up doing some for the time zone there. I get up earlier in the morning, so it's not too late for in Europe. And so I'm always doing training. So you can find out by getting my ebook, but also you can follow my fan page on Facebook. Just put my name in, Robert Riopel. You'll see the Robert Riopel fan page. Like my fan page, and that way you can message me if you have questions. And it's actually me that answers the messages. And so
That's
I
good.
don't have my assistant doing that yet, but I love to help people in any way I can. So that's the best way to stay in touch.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to place all of this information also in the show notes for this episode. And I encourage everyone to connect with you and work with you, because you are a very awesome person. And I really enjoy everything I've been able to learn from you today. I mean, if you had more time, I would have asked much more questions, but this is a lot already for me to go back and, reflect on and, actually take steps on and take action steps on. And yes, and hopefully we'll be able to speak on other topics later on in the future. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Like
I
I said,
appreciate
you
this.
ask and I will make time to come back. I love your energy. I love your style.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.